Hello, it is time for today's book study on Rise of the False Gods, Transformation through Illumination. Boy, and we're really shining a light on stuff today, let me tell you. I invite you to settle in. It's kind of a long chapter, but I would really like to try to get through it because we got so much more good stuff to look at, number one. Number two, what I have to share tonight is really meaty and in-depth, so maybe we won't be able to get it all done tonight. In any event, if this is your first time, please know that you can find all of the videos on Rise of the False God on YouTube. Just search for Rise of the False Gods, Reverend Alicia Leslie. Oh, no, I didn't put the Reverend in part, because I didn't want to have people think it was overly religious, because it's really not. It's metaphysics with, religious, death, sex, taxes, everything woven into the whole thing. It's shining a light on how we live and how to live well in alignment with the spiritual principles that make it possible. So, please also note, I love comments and questions. It's possible that in my desire tonight, especially, you know me, I tend to run off on my own little trails and tangents as we go along. I'll try not to. So it may take us 3 nights to do this, even though I'm hoping it will be just one. We shall see. Tonight we are looking at pride, prejudice, populism, and polarization. A number of years ago, maybe pride and prejudice were well known, but populism and polarization were not a part of our daily life. Not to the, actually it wasn't at all in my experience in my 75 years. But for the past 6 years, it has been. So buckle up. We're off for our ride for tonight. And we are, for those of you who are following in the book, we are halfway down the page number 116. And if you're looking at it on Kindle, it's relatively close. You can find it. I think you can search on Kindle. So let us begin. Many say the world has gone mad. Most days, I'm inclined to agree, seriously. Yet, as a lifelong student of truth, I remind myself, as the Bible says, it came to pass, not to stay. Some people, feeling overwhelmed, are throwing in the towel. They are frustrated and apathetic. And apathy is a real killer, folks. There is no need to go there at all. So let's buck up and move forward. But there are others, seekers. If you're watching this, you're probably a seeker. Well, if you continue to watch it after the first 5 minutes, because I think I've got what you're seeking, at least some of it. The seekers are the people who know there is something else. They're people who understand principle and are seeking the cause behind our current painful effects of pride, prejudice, populism, and polarization. You understand what's wrong with these things is that it all separates us. When it's not used and viewed rightly, it separates us. That is why we're in such trouble right now. Politically speaking, what would an adversarial country want more than to see the strongest nation on the world, on the planet, crumble, because it is united we stand, divided we fall. Therefore, countries that are adversarial to our democracy would be more than happy to see us fall apart and not be united. So when we look at these things, please keep considering the need to stay and become reunited. When we look with a spiritual eye, we see things different. In creation, there is a positive and a negative side to everything. Now, you know, I'm not saying good and evil. A lot of folks in Unity have a knee-jerk reaction to the word evil. Charles Fillmore did not. And if you have an issue with it, I've read the definition before. Go to the back of the book, to the glossary, and read what it says about evil. Evil is of this world, and I'll let you go read it yourself. We can't keep repeating. We got a long journey tonight. When we look with the spiritual eye, it is easy to discern what is positive and what is negative. Now, we just did Pride the other night, so I'm going to kind of float over this one, maybe. Okay. False pride is an exaggerated sense of self-esteem and worth. Now, the other side of pride, of false pride, is the feeling we get when we're living in integrity. So pride, like everything else, can be positive or negative. We did look into that, so I invite you to go back and find that in the previous messages. We want to be aligned with goodness. I can explain that best by saying a sense of harmony. You know, it's like being out of, being a cacophony of sounds and things that don't relate. And that's kind of what we've got now, because nobody's looking at what unites us. We're looking at what separates us. It's all in our minds. Yikes! But it's not just our individual minds. It's our collective mind as well. That's something to pay attention to. False pride, by its very nature, is its own worst enemy. Why? Because it's not the truth of our being. I've kind of touched on it before, but, you know, like with plastic surgery, there's plastic surgery that is necessary and helpful, and then there is going around the bend to things that are not necessary, and what they're saying is, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. You know, I love the miracles that good plastic surgery can perform to help people that are disfigured or what. But even though I probably would like to have maybe looked a little different, maybe a little more voluptuous or taller or whatever, but I do believe that I am the me that God created me to be. Does that mean I never put on a little lipstick or anything? No. But you all know that I'm pretty low maintenance if you watch my videos. All right. When caught in the clutches of false pride, we make many bad decisions and then suffer the consequences. Its effects are underscored when the ego will not let one admit he or she was wrong. You know, the fastest way to get out of a finger pointing thing is, if you're wrong, just say, oh, I'm really sorry, I was wrong. Whoops, that my bad. Because that immediately takes the sting out of it, and the person is more than happy to forgive you. Why? Because that's love. That's the way love works. If you open the door to sincere love, unconditional love, the love of God, not of the ego, it's always there right when you need it. Sometimes we have to be the star of everything. That's an example of false pride, but its opposite is actually the person who wants to be the star of everything has a core belief that they are underappreciated and not seen. So they keep, I would tell you something. I learned how to be very assertive with my 4'10" of height. And, when you go to the deli counter and the counter is taller than you are, you'll learn to speak up. Maybe that's how I got so loud. I don't know. I don't think I have an inside voice. I just don't. Okay. The consequences of not identifying your true value are you never get to live it. It's a trap. It's like walking straight into a hole. False pride is more caring about what other people think of you than what God, Spirit, or your very own self thinks of you. And that brings vanity. You know what the word vanity means? It means worthless. It means for nothing. And in the Bible, it even says, vanity, oh vanity. We are told not to have vanity. Why? It's about outside stuff. It's not about inside stuff. That's my bit on pride tonight. Now we get into prejudice. Prejudice is a preconceived idea, opinion, or feeling, either favorable or unfavorable. The idea could be formed through false information, association with a previous experience with someone else, or an inner feeling. Prejudice is based on gossip, misinformation, disinformation, or holding one whole group accountable for a single person's action. That is error. Now I'm going to be real honest with you. These words, misinformation, disinformation, gossip was always there, but it was minuscule compared to intentional misinformation and disinformation that breeds prejudice, especially when it's not true. There's all this stuff about election meddling and everything that's going on right now, challenging the voter fraud and everything. Well, let me tell you something. Big breath, buckle that seatbelt. I'm apologizing in advance. Please don't turn it off just because you don't like what I'm saying. Please try to find some value in it. Just consider the possibility I may have an idea there, okay? It wasn't until the voter fraud that occurred in the 2016 election happened from the feeding of misinformation and disinformation, falsehoods. It was taken over very intentionally, and I'm going to say this very carefully, it was under investigation repeatedly and found that yes, there was meddling by Russia. Okay, so this has been proven. I'm sorry, and you go, how many times do you have to prove it? But that is voter fraud is twisting the minds of voters as much as it is a fake ballot, which has been unprovable. So, there's no basis for it. But this is the high price of disinformation, misinformation. And my dear friends, that goes right back to gossip in your own heart, in your own mind, in your family, in your work group. Whether you're, I know gossip's juicy and it feels so cool to have the inside scoop. But if that scoop is based on misinformation, go watch the other videos if you want to hear all my confessions about my past and my gossipy nature back in the day, decades ago, I will say. Okay. So it was since the campaign for the 2016 election that misinformation and disinformation came into, it became like a cancer eating away at the consciousness of people who would not take the time and energy to look deeper. We're going to go into that more in a little bit. I'm trying to move along here. Think about, okay, back up. Okay, on the other side, we may sense something that comes to us without support or validation. Here, instead of taking action on the feeling, we can first explore and examine the feeling for information to confirm its validity. We must trust our when I say gut, I'm meaning our wisdom center, our center of divine order and wisdom that are part of our spiritual faculties. That is located in the upper two quadrants of consciousness in the intuitive sensing. Now, you also get gut reactions in the lower consciousness. Those are usually based on past experiences. You knew someone looked like that person, therefore you don't like that person. It's based on gossip. It's based on all those other things. So the vibrational energy is always going to be out there because we are energy. Energy, everything in the universe is energy. And so we can feel the vibrations of other people's energy for better or worse. Excuse me. Okay. Take the word prejudice and separate it as prejudge. Prejudice, prejudging. It's a practice of judging someone else without validation. So before you even form an opinion of someone based on what someone else said, do your research. Don't take it out on what could be an innocent person. You know, none of us are necessarily angels or we wouldn't be here. But if I'm going to be called out on something, I want it to be something I actually said or did. And as you know from listening to previous videos, I've done it. Hence the miraculous healing of my rather colorful vocabulary of the past. One woman, one remark changed my life. So we don't want to prejudge. Now, here are the ones that have really come in to huge notice in the past 6 years. Populism. The dictionary defines this as a political strategy based on a calculated appeal to the interests and prejudices of ordinary people. Now, do you remember when Trump said, "I love the undereducated. I do. I love the undereducated." Basically, the undereducated are the ones who kind of listen to what's put out there and kind of discern, well, yeah, that's what I'm going to follow. Very often, people do not take time to delve into the facts to see, is that true? They are subject to being fans, super fans. I don't know how that would be a word to be used in this instance, but anyway, so what Trump sells, this was just on the news tonight. Someone said, what Trump sells is angry populism. Am I losing you? I hope not, because just listen. This is my metaphysics, okay? This is metaphysics is looking at the principles behind what our life experience is. So when Trump does a what do you call it, a rally, everything in the world is a rally to him. He has no factual basis for anything that is said. He uses a lot of very simple, easy to comprehend words like big, it's enormous, it's huge, it's the most beautiful. Only I could do that. We've never had anything like that because of me. They're very simple little words. Now, that does not mean that intelligent people do not follow him, but sometimes they follow him for the wrong reasons. And one of those is being the subject of populism. A lot of people are afraid to stand up and call him out for fear they will lose their constituency. But to me, and if there's any politicians watching this, I'm no expert, please, but I am a relatively intelligent human being, okay? They don't want to lose the base because they're afraid they're going to lose their job. But to me, one of the things all leaders should be responsible for is calling out their constituency to be the best kind they can be. And if they are following a Pied Piper, if they are following a leader with unsavory intentions, you call that leader out. You think you'll lose your job? Maybe. You think you'll lose your constituency? Maybe. But I'm going to tell you something. I guarantee you, the more integrity we express in our day-to-day lives, the better the reward will come. Some people, they say, sometimes have to be dragged kicking and screaming to their highest good. So I am calling on, Republicans, Democrats, whoever. Don't just be worshiping false gods of ego and money. Stand up for truth and justice. And when I consider the possibility that someone knows better but keeps their mouth shut for fear of losing their position, that is very sad. Do not sell out for love or money. A human love, not the love of God. Because you will always be blessed for doing the right thing. May not look like it for a while. In the end, you will be blessed. Duh! That makes me so nervous to do that. In its presence and power, however, populism goes far beyond politics, reaching into religion and business. As with Pride and Prejudice, populism can be positive or negative, depending on its validity in a particular circumstance or situation. You know who I wish was more popular? That would be Cory Booker, because that man wrote a book about our need to learn and grow and live together and create a better world. And if you get a chance, read that book, United. That's who I would have knocked on doors for. In the 2016 election, many were deceived and swayed by fake news stories. This brought out the worst in people in the grips of Pride and Prejudice because it blocked the avenues to factual information. Oh, I know there's people have issues with that, and I'm going to say, you can just take it for what it's worth. When the video's over, forget you ever heard it. I don't care. But I wrote it not to debate, but to share a potential bit of information that you may see as having value. In 2017, Pope Francis warned of the dangers of populism. In times of crisis, we lack judgment, and that is a constant reference for me. In times of crisis, we need our judgment more than ever. Two words that explains it all: coronavirus, masks, okay? Populism is anti-establishment. You know, people gripe about the government and about how it doesn't measure up and things have to change. Yeah, but we're pointing our fingers. We're not getting in there and working on the change. You want change? Get your little hiney out there and start doing things that will change. Belong to the groups that are doing the work that you believe in. Okay. Woo! I didn't know I was going down these roads tonight. Okay. Okay, populism is anti-establishment. They want things to be changed in their favor, but they have little workable knowledge of what is involved in how the establishment works. We have been dumbed down to the point we know little about our very own government. In the past 40 years at least, many have become increasingly ignorant and opinionated. And I didn't throw it in at that time, but I would like to throw in at this time, ignorant. That means you know better, but you don't care. While some are overwhelmed beyond fact, others, apathetic, turn their back and shrug their shoulders and say, whatever. How sad is that? Many good things come through the efforts of populism, but when self-interest of populists supersede the best interest for all and is based on lies, we can expect the effects that it mirrors. How do we know the difference? Jesus knew the difference. We will know them by their fruits. If you want to live in a castle made of cards, it will collapse. Unfortunately, we're all going to go with it one way or the other. So that's all the more reason. Don't be an armchair politician. You got something to say. You got something you believe in. Do your research. Get active in your political party. Stand up and vote. Speak your truth. And whenever it's over, however the cards fall, work with what we have. And hold those politicians' feet to the fire to follow through with what they promise. Our experiences will always be the fruit of our past thoughts, feelings, and actions. If we want change, we must be the change we desire. Do you ever think somebody's got to do something? Guess who's tapping on your shoulder saying, oh, you're the one. You're the one. Yep. Anytime you have one of those thoughts, somebody ought to do something, look in the mirror, because you're the one that's got the gifts, the talents, and the power to make it so. Change your thoughts, change your actions, change the world. Oh, Lord have mercy. That was a mouse. I'm trying so hard. I put out the baits. I don't know what I'm going to do. They're just getting more and more brazen. Anybody know how to get rid of mice? Let me know. What a night. Oh, Lord. Okay. Going for polarization. Polarization is what happens when people become divided into contrasting groups. There we have ourselves. Groups separate through the prejudice and pride of populism. The missing components that would dissolve the barriers that separate us are education, truth, and understanding. Many people are so attached to their personal opinions they cannot see the possibility of a world that works for all. Yet we do have the power. Together we can do it. The challenge is ours as individuals and groups. In the first Star Wars movie, Obi-Wan Kenobi is talking to Princess Leia. He moves as if jostled and says, "There's a disturbance in the Force." This mirrors what we experience every day, that hate, war, and evil occur. The Force represents spiritual energy. When we come to where the positive energy of spirit freely flows, we will not have to fear the future or each other. Now, there's one other thing. I'm running over, but I'm almost done. No, Cheryl, that was not a trap going on. That was my hand slapping my book to chase it away toward the bait that it will hopefully, sadly, eat and go home and be gone, as it were. I'm at my wit's end. I've got decon. Anybody know anything better than that? Okay. All right, good. So we want to look out for bias, for the bias between truth and lies. Is this personal or principle? Is this my ego, or is it truth? Here's something. We hear so much about Obamacare. Obamacare, Obamacare. It's like, oh, no, not Obamacare. That's the worst thing in the world. Why? Some people don't like Obama. So when they hear Obama, oh, yep, you got it. I want no part of it. How many people know what's actually in that bill? What is its real name? Do you know its real name? It is the Affordable Care Act. So if you've got an issue over the word Obamacare, think about the Affordable Care Act. I'm going to tell you something. With my daughter having her experience with the ulcerative colitis and the bills, and thank God she's got insurance. Now, she doesn't have as much to lose as a lot of people have to lose, and medical bills can send you into bankruptcy. And the people who refuse to buy health insurance, when they go to the hospital and they wind up where they can't pay those bills and they lose what they have, those bills still have to be paid. You know who's going to pay them? Taxpayers. That's what we have for each other. We stand for each other. Doctors and nurses have to be paid. Hospitals have to be paid. So we go on to public assistance programs that are covered by taxpayers. Think on these things. We need to learn to think for ourselves. Don't just listen to what somebody else said because you like what they said. This is why I stayed on longer tonight for this word, and I'm going to call on you to do your homework. You want to be a spiritual being? Get your maturity, get your spiritual maturity, earn your wings. Look up cognitive dissonance on YouTube. They have a great variety of things, and this is what it says. Cognitive dissonance is psychological conflict resulting from incongruous beliefs and attitudes held simultaneously. Do you remember when Donald Trump said he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and he wouldn't lose his base? That's what it is. It doesn't matter. We've seen crime after crime after crime. We've seen horrible things go on in the past 4 years. And the thing is, The people know things are wrong, but the economy. Yeah, but the economy. Yeah, but the right to life. Yeah, but there's no excuse. But that's what we have to do. You see, when there's cognitive dissonance, you pick the one that you feel serves you most. But if it's compromising your integrity, if it's compromising the integrity of your family, your community, your country, something is wrong. It's a house of cards, and it's gonna fall. The good news is, you've got all this information. You know what you're dealing with now. Whew, that's a biggie. So if I haven't completely alienated you and you'd like to hear more tomorrow, let's see where we're going tomorrow. Ooh, heaven, hell, and Hollywood. Join me then. Have a good day.